Welcome to a new episode of the Artist Journal podcast by Northwind Illustrations. If you're new here, I'm really glad you found your way in.
Yeah, it's so great to have you with us today.
This is a quiet place for the stories and observations behind the work, the parts that aren't always visible in the finished piece.
Exactly. And, if you'd like to explore previous episodes, you can subscribe on Substack and listen at your own pace.
Right. So today we have a really profound mission for this deep dive. We're exploring this amazing concept titled, What Repeats Across Your Work and Why It Matters.
It is such a powerful piece.
It really is. Because the goal today is to help you, the listener, stop feeling like you are constantly starting from scratch. We want to help you find that hidden thread that ties all your efforts together. And I brought you in to help us synthesize all these ideas.
Well, I am super excited to dig into this with you. It's a topic that hits really close to home for a lot of creators.
Totally. So let's just jump right into it. The source starts with this core critique of how we usually view our own output.
Yeah, the illusion of this single finished piece.
Right. The idea that we almost always judge our work at the surface level. Like we only look at what is finished, what is presented, and what is ready.
Exactly. And the text makes this brilliant observation that a single piece of work can feel so complete on its own. Like it carries its own weight.
It feels finalized.
Yes. But in doing so, it actually hides something vital. It hides what connects it to literally everything else you've ever made.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because to me, it's like trying to understand an entire ocean by looking at a single cup of water you just scooped out.
Oh, that is a perfect analogy.
Right, like sure, it's water, but you completely miss the tides.
Yeah.
So why is looking at a single finished piece actually blinding us to our own creative reality?
Well, the text explains that the gap here isn't in the making of the work.
Okay.
The gap is in the understanding of it. When you look piece by piece, you obscure the bigger picture. You're just too zoomed in to see the flow.
Yeah, that makes sense. So if looking at a single piece is blinding us, the conversation naturally has to shift to what happens when we look at a whole body of work.
Right. And that is where the emergence of these quieter connections happens.
Quieter connections, I like that phrase.
Yeah, the source points out that these connections don't appear loudly. They don't happen all at once. They build steadily.
And I eagerly want to highlight the really beautiful, specific examples the text gives for how these patterns manifest, like how lines behave.
Oh, yes. Are your lines loose or controlled?
Right. Are they searching or fixed? Or, how space is used? Do things sit fully within boundaries or do they dissolve at the edges?
And even how form is built. Like, is your work dense, layered, and heavy? Or is it light, open, and restrained?
Okay, but wait. I have to push back a little here. Aren't these just stylistic choices?
How do you mean?
Well, if I sit down and choose to draw loose lines, isn't that just my style?
Well, what's fascinating here is that the text explicitly states these are not stylistic choices.
Really? Not style?
Not in the way we traditionally think of style, no. There are patterns that are already there.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, they emerge across different subjects and different intentions, regardless of what you consciously try to do. They just remain unnamed.
That is so interesting. Okay, so moving from defining these unconscious patterns, let's talk about the psychological relief of finally naming them.
This is the paradigm shift.
Yeah.
Because without seeing these patterns, every single piece feels like a totally separate decision.
A separate attempt.
Exactly. And a totally separate direction.
Which is exhausting.
It really is. The emotional core of this text zeroes in on that exact feeling. Confusion.
Yeah.
When you don't see the repetitions, you feel disjointed. But when you finally step back and notice what repeats, you realize a profound truth.
Which is?
You are not starting over each time. You are continuing something.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Think about this in your own life. Think about how exhausting it is to feel like you are starting from zero on every new project.
Or every Monday morning.
Exactly. So how does grounding our work in these patterns, saying, this is how my work moves or this is how it builds, how does that fundamentally change our relationship to our own output?
Because it removes the panic. You don't have to invent a new visual language every single time you sit down. You just have to tap into the cadence you already have.
Right. Now that we know we are continuing a pattern, that has to protect us from outside pressures too.
Oh, totally. This shift in focus actually reveals where the work naturally sits.
Where it naturally sits.
Yeah, and there's a critical distinction in the text here. The goal is not to find where the work should go or where it might perform best.
Oh, I have to jump in on that phrase, perform best, because it is so tempting to mold our work to fit external expectations.
Chasing the algorithm.
Exactly. Chasing a trend or an algorithm Doesn't looking for our inherent patterns protect us from feeling like our work needs to be constantly adjusted?
Absolutely. Because chasing what performs best is a trap. The source reassures us that the work is already coherent.
It just hasn't been seen that way yet.
Exactly. You don't need to fix it to make it fit. You just need to understand its true shape.
Okay, so let's move into the practical application for you, listening right now. We need to transform the core question we ask ourselves.
Right. The text outlines a major shift here. We have to stop asking, what should I change?
Which is such a critical negative posture.
It is. We constantly look for flaws.
Mm.
But we need to start asking, what is already repeating that I haven't fully recognized?
What is already repeating? And the author of the Artist Journal podcast has actually been doing these readings of groups of work, right?
Yes. To help people see these exact patterns reflected back at them.
Yeah.
It's so helpful to have an external eye.
It really is. And just a reminder, there is a Substack link provided in the original source for listeners who want to explore past episodes or participate in those readings.
Definitely worth checking out.
But even if you don't get a formal reading from them, you can apply this today by yourself.
Oh, absolutely.
Just step back, look across your body of work, and stay with that one simple question. What repeats?
Just sit with the discomfort and let the patterns emerge.
So to quickly recap our journey today, we started with the isolation and the trap of the single finished piece.
Right, how it blinds us to the bigger picture.
Yeah. And then we discovered those quiet, unnamed patterns in how we build and move.
And finally, we arrived at that immense relief that we are always continuing. We are never just starting over.
It's such a freeing perspective.
It really is. And I want to leave you with one final provocative thought to mull over that kind of builds on everything we just discussed.
Oh, I love these. Let's hear it.
So the text talks about finding these hidden, repeating patterns across a body of creative work.
Right.
But what if we applied this exact same lens to the timeline of our lives?
Oh, wow. The timeline of our lives.
Yeah, like if we stopped looking at our individual decisions or career moves or relationships as these separate, disconnected attempts.
If we stop judging them as isolated incidents.
Exactly. What quiet underlying patterns would we discover that are constantly repeating?
Just trying to show us the way.
Trying to show us where we truly belong.
That is an incredible thought to end on. If you apply that lens, it completely changes how you view your own history.
It really does.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive today. And to you listening, keep questioning, keep exploring, and we'll catch you next time.